Welcome to your Get That Nugget for GCSE English Literature. Today we're going to be concentrating on giving you a framework for structuring your paragraphs for when you are answering the essay questions. Today we're going to be focusing on Jekyll and Hyde and specifically on the character of Dr. Jekyll. This session is here to complement your lessons with your teachers and not to replace them in any way. So, Dr. Jekyll is one of the central characters in the novel Jekyll and Hyde, and yet we see very little of him in the novel. Most of the action is centred around Mr. Utterson, and so quite a lot of what we have to interpret about Dr. Jekyll comes from other people's interpretations of him or from his final statement. So what we know from the beginning of the novel is that Mr. Utterson, who doesn't make very many friends, is a very close friend of Henry Jekyll. And in chapter 3, when he goes to see him, we are given our first physical description of Dr. Jekyll. And even at this point, Stevenson is trying to show us that there is something hidden, there is something underlying to Dr. Jekyll. So, something of a slyish cast, perhaps. So there is uncertainty there. But then every mark of capacity and kindness. And so if we look at this, we can say that Jekyll is presented as a good man who perhaps has secrets. Okay, so that is our response to the quotation, that is our response to the character of Jekyll, that is why it's AO1. AO2, we're going to look at the words that are used. So, kindness. Implies goodness, implies that he's considerate of others, suggests that he does good work. We know that he's a doctor. However, the word slyish suggests secrets or secrecy and things that are hidden. AO3, we're going to look at the role of the Victorian gentleman. The idea that they would hide secrets, that they would hide things that they had done wrong to maintain reputation. So already we have the structure for that paragraph. So Jekyll is a good man who has secrets. We unpick it at a word level, and then we explain how that links to the context in which it was written. The second quotation we're going to look at is from chapter 7, Incident at the Window. So following the death of Carew, following the death of Lanyon, Jekyll confines himself to his house. He tells people that he is unwell. And during this chapter, he is described as a disconsolate prisoner. So disconsolate and prisoner suggests that there is no hope. Someone who is trapped with no way out. If we then unpick that metaphor, we look at the idea of prisoner, so it is out of his control. He is being held against his will. We look at the idea of disconsolate, so nothing can make it better. And we need to be really clear that when we're unpicking this, we need to look at each of the individual words because we need to be able to say something about them, Just identifying it as a metaphor or a simile doesn't actually tell us how Stevenson is achieving that effect. AO3, gentlemen were expected to make social calls. So the idea that he won't invite Utterson and Enfield in, the idea that he won't go outside with them, suggests that there is something incredibly seriously wrong. The way that you maintained your reputation would have been by being seen to do things that everyone else was doing. So walking sensibly and pleasantly around town having a conversation means that you are seen, and you are seen doing the right things. Inviting people into your house shows that you are meeting those social norms, that you are doing what everyone else is doing. So the fact that he is essentially trapped in his own house and either won't come out and speak to Enfield or Utterson or won't invite them in suggests that there is something desperately wrong, and that his reputation is starting to fray or to come unravelled. The next quotation that I'm going to look at comes from chapter 10, and this is when Jekyll finally admits to everything that he's done. He writes a letter, he explains himself to Utterson, and from that quotation, when he says man is not truly one but truly two, we can say that essentially Jekyll is conflicted. He doesn't see himself as one single person, he sees himself as two. AO2, man is not truly one but truly two. His use of the word truly asserts his scientific beliefs. The use of the word two suggests duality, suggests a hidden self. We then link that to AO3 and look at the repression of Victorian gentlemen. Hidden desires rather than a balance. So Jekyll is saying essentially that none of this was really his fault, that man has a dual nature, that he has a good side, a bad side, a side that he's willing to show to society and a side that he's not. And he believes that genuinely every man has two sides to them, and that is why he's experimented, and that is why he is in the situation that he's in. So what we can do is we can use those quotations to write a paragraph about how Jekyll is presented. So Jekyll is presented as conflicted. There's that bit done. He uses the word truly to signify his Jekyll is presented as conflicted. He uses the word truly to signify his assertions about his scientific work. Additionally, he uses the word to suggest that man has two sides to his personality, which indicates duality. This therefore suggests that everyone has a hidden self. The reason it would have remained hidden in Victorian society would have been to protect reputation. Okay. So you have a paragraph that answers the question, how is Jekyll presented, using AO1, AO2, AO3, and your paragraph is structured in that way. What I'm going to leave you with is a task to do your own answer to that question using the quotations that we have looked at today. So how does Stevenson present Jekyll?